Hello everyone, welcome to Wicked West Books. My name is Meg West and this time I am doing the mid-year book freakout tag. This tag was created by Chami from the channel Chami, as well as Ellie from Earl Grey Books. This is a tag that was created years ago and has kind of become a tradition on Booktube to redo every year, and I've done it once before, so this time we're going to do it again. Now there are an awful lot of questions on this tag, so we're going to try and hit each one as quickly as possible so that this video is not 2 hours long, or at least 30 minutes long. We're going to try and keep it under that. So the first question starts you off real strong, and that is, what is the best book you have read so far this year? For this option, I have chose The Heart Forger by Ringe-Pekka. This is the second book in the Bone Wish trilogy. The first book made it into my top 5 books last year, and this one was also really good. And I really need to get my hands on the third one so that I can read it, because necromantic magic, memoirs of a geisha fantasy world, there's really nothing I can say that's wrong with this series. It's very much up my alley. Question number 2 is the best sequel you have read this year. For this one I picked The Queen's Bargain by Anne Bishop. I have a couple reasons for this, but one of those reasons is an answer to a later question. So we're going to stick with the fact that this is a book that we didn't know was coming until a couple years ago when she announced that she was revisiting this world, but we thought that this series was over. We thought that all of the books had been written and published, and that that was all we were going to get from the series. Until this one. And for that, I absolutely love it. There will be another book in the series coming out next year to continue on this series. But the fact that one of my favorite book series of all time wasn't quite over yet makes this the best sequel, in my opinion. Number 3 is a book that came out this year you haven't read yet. For this one, the book for me is A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This book is super pretty, and honestly, I have no idea what it's about. I don't. I had read the beginning before. I just knew that I was going to read it no matter what it was about. But I think this is going to be immensely a enemies to lovers book from what I can read in the front, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. Number 4 is the most anticipated read for the second half of the year, and for me, this book is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th book in the Stormlight Archive novel. Big Books, his long series, and everything, well, almost everything, a lot of the other things that he has written connects into his Stormlight, and there was a big connection in the 3rd one, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how it connects in even more. Topic number 5 is your biggest disappointment this year, and for this one, that book has to be Dr. Tatiana's Sex Advice to All of Creation by Olivia Judson. This is a non-fiction kind of book that is told in a advised columnist kind of way from a newspaper, where mostly insects, but other animals too, write in to Dr. Tatiana about their sex problems in the animal kingdom, and Dr. Tatiana gives advice and information about how these things are run. This book starts off great, and you learn some really interesting things, but it's probably more me, but reading a nonfiction book all the way through got really boring and repetitive, which is very sad because I got so much information out of this. But that's also kind of the problem. There was so much information and not given in such a way that I can remember it all, and thus it was kind of a letdown. Number 6, the biggest surprise, and for me that one has to be The Poet X by Elizabeth Escovedo. This is a surprise to me because it is told mostly through poetry, and I don't tend to like poetry. I don't tend to like books told through poetry. If there is a poem in a book, that's fine. I can deal with that. But large collections of poetry, it's not something that I read for fun, ever. So the fact that I really enjoyed this book was a little bit of a surprise to me, considering how much poetry this story is told through. And I really enjoyed this book. and it kind of surprised me because, like I said, I don't like poetry, but I did like this book. Number 7 is a new favorite author, and for this I have chosen Alana Andrews. I spent all of June reading every book by her in the Kate Daniels series, of which the first book is Magic Bites. And Alana Andrews is actually a couple that writes an urban fantasy series together. They have a few other things that I haven't read yet, but I'm definitely going to, and this is a series that I'm going to have to now go out and buy all of the books in it, because it's now really far up there with one of my favorite 3 series of all times. Yeah, probably. You got Anne Bishop's Dark Jewels, and you've got the Mercy Thompson and Alpha and Omega series by Patricia Briggs. This one is right up there with them, so Alana Andrews, I'm gonna have to buy more of their stuff. Number 8 is your newest favorite bookish crush, and for that I am also choosing a character that comes from the Kate Daniels series by Alana Andrews. Now, it is not Curran, although I did absolutely adore Curran, but I have this weird thing where if a character is in a relationship in the book, I can't crush on them. I mean, I can kind of crush on them, but the crushes are so much stronger if the characters are single. So for that, I have actually chosen Roman, who does not show up in this first book. I think it's book 3 that he maybe shows up in, but he is an evil priest for an evil god, and I love him. Love him. Question number 9 is your new favorite character, and for this I chose a character from a book that has a huge cast of characters. From the book A Plague of Giants by Kevin Hearn, my new favorite character is Abhinava Koza. This is one of the point of view characters that is in this book. I say that while laughing because this book has 9 point of view characters in it, and it is written just to be a story told from multiple perspectives that were collected by one person. And extremely helpful to this is that it has a person guide right in the first few pages where it actually tells you all about, well, a little bit about each character just so that you can tell them apart. And Abhinava Koza is this one right here, and just his story and what he goes through, and just my favorite character in this. So it makes sense that my new favorite character comes from a book with a large, interesting cast of characters, not all of them the hero's viewpoint. Number 10, a book that made you cry, and it takes an awful lot for a book to make me cry. So this book that I'm going to mention, I don't think actually made me cry. I may have shed a tear, but I don't cry easily at all. So I'm going to pull up a book that made me sad, which is Our Chemical Hearts by Kristen Sutherland. This is a contemporary novel about how high school love may not be that final love, and that's okay. And I loved that view for it. It is a book that I probably could have used around 9-10 years ago when I had my breakup from my high school boyfriend, and just that view that sometimes relationships don't work. It's not something you see a lot in books, not in any kind of healthy way, which I wouldn't necessarily say that this was healthy, but maybe more normalized due to being contemporary, and it made me feel a lot, and I really enjoyed this book, which is also kind of weird because I'm not the biggest fan of contemporary novels, but I really liked this one. So 11, book is technically a book that makes you happy, but for this I'm going to actually mention a few books, and I'll tell you why as I mention the book. So the first one I want to mention is, of course, Magic Bites, the first book in the Kate Daniels series by Alana Andrews, because I got to find a brand new series that I got to marathon all the way through, and I got to marathon it with my best friend who enjoyed them just as much as I did, probably more. As I just mentioned, I don't cry at books. She cried at this one in several places, and I really enjoyed being able to find a new favorite series and being able to basically discover them at the same time as my best friend. So makes me happy in that sense. I also want to mention A Plague of Giants by Kevin Hearn and A Queen's Bargain by Anne Bishop. These were both amazing because these books came out before the country shut itself down for That Which Cannot Be Named, which I can name anyway because I'm not monetized, so. But these came out before then, and both authors, Kevin Hearn and Anne Bishop, came to Oklahoma City to do book signings. So these are both signed, and since Anne Bishop has been one of my favorite authors for absolutely forever, like high school forever, so 12 years has been one of my favorite authors, the chance to actually go and see her in person makes this book make me very, very happy, and all of the memories that go along with it. And Kevin Hearn is an author that my husband and I are both pretty well into. I think him just a little bit more than me, but being able to go and get his book signed was also a fantastic experience that both my husband and I enjoyed, and thus this book makes me happy. It also makes me happy because it's just so different with 9 point of view characters. Number 12. Your Prettiest New Book. I did gush about it just a second ago because of how pretty it is, but it is the prettiest new book I've got. I mean, I've got some pretty books on my shelf, but none that are really new in that this just came out a few weeks ago, but also it's one of the only books I've bought recently. So it has to be the prettiest book that I've bought recently. Number 13, a book that you need to read this year. One that has been nagging at the back of my mind for a while, and one that I've wanted to bring out in like a number of different readathons, but just haven't done it. I don't know, I just haven't done it. And that book is Refraction by Naomi Hughes. This is a short book, and I think it was last year Naomi Hughes was at a book convention that was held in Norman here in Oklahoma, and I went to it and I got to hear her speak about her book and about other books that she greatly enjoyed on a panel where it just kind of went over favorite books by authors, and my tastes and hers aligned pretty well on what we read, so I really think I'm going to enjoy her book. And she doesn't understand why she wrote a sci-fi horror novel, which is also kind of pushing my comfort level because space sci-fi, not really my thing. Fantasy always, sci-fi in the sense has to be done really well for me to like it, but horror, not something I do a lot, almost ever. So it was one that I had to buy after meeting her, and I haven't read it yet, so it's really one that I need to put inside my brain. Number 14 is to name a new to you booktuber that you are obsessed about now. And I recently discovered Zoe's All Booked. She is not new by any means, but I had never come across her videos before. I came across them really recently, and that kind of chaotic energy that she puts out on the camera, I absolutely love it. So I will be watching a lot more of Zoe's All Booked in the future, and of course I subscribe to her, and you should too. So that's it. That is all 14 questions, and I managed to keep the raw footage under 20 minutes. Yay me! So that's going to be it for this video. This video has been around for forever. If you have a mid-year freakout and you want to have someone else look at your video and maybe like it and give a comment, just comment down below that you have one, and I'm sure to come and check it out. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, and feel free to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. I post videos on Wednesdays. Have a wicked day.